Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be with such a great group of cattlemen and dedicated, and it's a pleasure to be with the RCAF organization and overall, and I thank each and one of better? Okay. Thank each and every one of you for all the work that you do for this organization, and to keep RCAF on and try and keep Washington and our state legislatures in running and honest, I guess is what I call it. But is this the green one? Big green? Okay. Sorry, I wasn't very prepared here. The Checkoff Committee this year has been working really hard with other organizations on the OFF Act, trying to get the OFF Act through. I imagine most of you have heard it. But I will try and go through it here a little. But first, let's review a little bit what our checkoff has done. I went too far. This one isn't. Oh, going. How do I go back? Red one. There we go. Isn't coming up here. Now I got it. Sorry about that. Going through the act itself, which I've done probably close to 100 or 1,000 times while I was on the Cattlemen's Beef Board, looking for ways that they seem to be working against us in there. And it never ceases to amaze me how I find something that I didn't see the last time. And just the other day when I was going through for this, I came up with that first sentence there. It's kind of the mission statement, and it says to enable cattle producers to establish, finance, and carry out coordinated program of research, producer and consumer information, and the promotion to improve, maintain, and develop markets for cattle, beef, and beef products. And I have darkened or highlighted the certain key words in there. Did they forget, or maybe that was the original intent of our checkoff was cattle producers. Maybe the packers weren't supposed to have been in there. And then to top it off, wasn't the original intent to make markets and for our cattle? The original intent was not necessarily beef and beef products. And I guess if beef and beef products are going to be in there on that, why then maybe the packers should have been in there and some of the other industry along with it in that original, what do you want to call it, their mission statement or whatever. But it is true. It seems like the cattle producers are paying the packers' share of the bill for the other products and that the beef and all that. There's probably even going to be an attempt to, most of our packers are invested in fake meat or whatever, and there's probably an attempt in there somewhere underneath the table for us to pay for that too. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting that I'd kind of missed that over the years, and I think we're all quite aware of it. It seems like we're paying the dollar, and the dollar's not getting taken off as it goes through the feedlot and through the packing house and that. So just what's wrong with our checkoff? How's it treating you? I mean, we've had this checkoff for quite a few years. Here's a few of the things that our checkoff is doing. Since 1985, we've lost over 500,000 producers out there. If that program was really working, we probably should have gained that many. Everybody'd be wanting to get into it. 7 million fewer cows at the present time in there. 85,000 feedlots, or 75% of our small family feeders have disappeared in there. Everything's got to get bigger and better. 26 cents loss per share of the consumer dollar, and which is quite significant. We should almost be gaining on that. And of course, 38-pound decrease in per capita beef consumption over the years here, and at the same time, chicken has gone up. I think the last time I looked, chicken's over 100, maybe 110 pounds per capita. They don't even have a checkoff. They're eating our lunch. And of course, 26% increase in imported cattle. Well, that 26% increase kind of go back there 2 lines up, and that kind of correlates to that 26 cents that we've lost on the dollar too in there. Anytime they need something to fill in, well, they just import a little more in there. So that's kind of where it is. This is last year I think I showed one similar to this. This is the update on there. And this is 2023, all the authorization requests. And the key things I'd like you to look at down here is if you look at the total down there in the black, at the bottom, there's $46,490,000, about $46.5 million of authorization requests. These are only the requests that are for 1 year. They have gotten around this by doing multiple year requests where they pay over 3-year plan or whatever. I did not include any of them. This is just the ones that they'll get paid on for this year. If you go down the two spaces below there, there's 34 million, a little over 34 million that NCBA gets of that. That's 73.5% they are currently writing themselves out a check for. And they not only write that check to themselves, they're the ones that build the ARs. All these organizations that are contracting, when I was on the board, the girls and mostly girls, I guess there's men too in there, from NCBA write those authorization requests. They dream up what they're going to do for the coming year so that they can get a pretty good sized implementation fee off of that. And while they're doing it, of course, there's that firewall. They've got a little book and they're recording their work for the checkoff and they're recording their policy work. I'd be willing to bet that 99% of the work they do is probably, we pay for it in there. Key point is over on the last column down there. All those, that 73.5% that they get, their implementation fees on there are 48%. That means that they write themselves or that's what's left over. We pay them 48% of that amount to go over the firewall and use against us in lobbying. Look at right below it, all the others, they get 24.8%. And that's creeping up. It used to be they were about 40% and all the rest are at 20%, but that's creeping up too in there a little bit. If you look up there, it's under foreign marketing, that's 2340 there, on there about the fourth line down. That's the money that goes to US MEF. And that is usually, it's down now to 88.2 million. Used to be around 10 million, but that comes to them through an AR. And that's an AR that a number one contractor gets. They even take out an implementation fee on that money before they write a second check and pass it through to them. That's just some of the ways of carrying out our, I don't know what you want to call it, I guess, finding more money for their policy end of the thing, you know. Their CEO makes a pretty good check with benefits and everything of about $700,000 a year on there. Okay, the OFF Act. What is so great about the OFF Act? Well, we had a committee and we studied all the things that needed, and we had like 12 things that needed to be changed on the checkoff. We came to the conclusion that if we can get the OFF Act and bring in country of origin labeling inside, we'd be better off for the first year. There is 153 organizations that are signed on to supporting the OFF Act bill, and we think we have a pretty good chance of getting it through into the Farm Bill. Several think of that, so we're hoping so, and if it doesn't go that way, well, we'll probably introduce it by itself. The OFF Act has been around since 2017, but right now it's resurged because of the Farm Bill in there, and some changes are made. The OFF Act actually affects all checkoffs. It isn't just the beef checkoff in there, and that's one of the main problems, I guess. Dairy has just as many problems as we do, and soybeans and some of the others, they've had a lot of deals. But then there's a lot of them, there's 12 of them that aren't right under the USDA, and they're kind of backing up saying that they don't need any of our help on there. But anyway, the OFF Act prohibits checkoff boards from entering into contracts, carrying out checkoff activities with parties that also work influence government. So basically it's to prevent lobbying, which is the key point of the OFF Act. It prohibits board members and employees of checkoff programs from engaging in any act that involve a conflict of interest, which is very important. Prohibits engagement in anti-competitive activities, deceptive practices, or disparaging practices. That's kind of more of the conflict of interest, I guess that would be if I was on that board and I decided I wanted to promote some of my stuff in there. Requires that contracts entered into by the board be recorded and described goods and services provided and the costs incurred. That's just transparency, which is good common to know. requires checkoff boards to publicize a transparent budget. That's more transparency. Requires periodic audits of checkoff boards by the Inspector General of the USDA, which is a pretty good reminder also because there hasn't been a lot of Inspector General work, I don't think, oversight or enforcement in the past 10 years probably. They did catch one incident in Oklahoma that was being used, and then back about 2010, of course, we had the head man got a loan there for his house and a few of things like that, which was kind of embarrassing, and they covered that up real quick and buried it. So going to the next slide, this is what's in the Beef Checkoff Act and Order. They're actually the committee duties and the responsibilities of the secretary. And here about midsummer, early summer, Colin Woodall, he said, we do not own the checkoff. We do not control the checkoff. Well, we know he didn't own the checkoff all along because that was proven in the case where Charter versus the USA back in I guess that was about 2002 in there. And they said that it's a government tax, and they pretty well proved they own it. But as far as controlling the checkoff, he's wrong there. They definitely control the checkoff because the Federation of Beef Councils in 1996 was infused into NCBA. They're not a standalone organization, and they were given 50% of the seats on the beef operating committee. And with those 50% of the seats, plus they probably own most of the other, why they pretty well control everything on there. But anyway, he also said that we don't need the off act, that we already have all this stuff in the act and the order. And yes, we do. These are and I'm not going to go through them all. These, Section 5 and all them are the part that control them. And one I don't have in there is Section 7, which gives the secretary the power to investigate and administer and take care of the checkoff in there too. So basically, he's right. Everything is in there. So what's the purpose of the off act? Well, they aren't following that, and the purpose would be kind of as a reminder more than anything on there. If he's exactly right, it's in there, but we're not following it, is basically what he's saying on there, on that off act. So where's the problem? And I guess I left that slide, so I'll look. But there's lack of communication somewhere in there, and is it the lack of communication from the bottom up to the secretary, or is it from top down to the secretary? Is he not doing his job? Is he ignoring things in there? Is it lack of USDA oversight? That's what we were not sure of it. And so then, this is the act and the order was started by the Congress and approved by them. Well, in 1996, it was rearranged. The Federation was brought in and all that. Was Congress aware of that? Was there congressional approval of that? That's a question we need to look at. We probably need to study that thing and get some lawyers' opinions on it overall. So what we're thinking is we'll go with the off act for this year, and if it fails and goes down, and maybe even go ahead with asking for a congressional investigation of that off act. And the dairy people have already called for a congressional investigation. They've not got an answer, but they've got the attention of a lot of people. And so we're kind of looking at this, if we go ahead and file for an investigation, will that help bring out more attention for our off act? And so I guess the best way to probably it's tough to get a congressional investigation. You've got to have senators and that on the Ag Committee, or representatives if you go that way, to try and get the chairman to file it. And we're not in the best, what do you want to call it, light with the chairman on either side on there right now. But I think if we could go ahead and show that the loss of true wealth that our checkoff is helping to bury in this country that comes from agriculture, which is ag is basically, other than forestry, the only true wealth in this country, the renewable true wealth. And so I think that's the way to sell it. And the other one would be national food security. if we're having to send these 400,000 or 500,000 producers out, and then we're having to import 21% more on there, that is a real food security issue on there. So anyway, that's a direction we're kind of thinking of looking at in there. And I would entertain anybody's comments here throughout the day. I'll be around here and thoughts on that.